Welcome to Shifting from Grudge to Grit, Grace, and Gratitude. And we are so blessed to have Dr. Lisa Campbell here, all the way from Illinois in Chicago. And it's 8:30 a.m. there at her. She's having a decaf tea, I believe. And I mean, gosh, aren't we just privileged? I'm so grateful to be here with you. You're welcome to say hi. And whilst you say hi, I'm going to do the other logistical things that I've just mentioned going live on Instagram. So
Good,
welcome.
good morning, family. Thank you so much for having me here today. I definitely count it a blessing anytime I am able to grace someone else's podcast. As a podcast host myself, I
Mm-hmm.
know how difficult it might be to be able to get, guests on your podcast. And so every time I grace someone else's podcast, I make it a mission to be a blessing and also to bring the most authentic version of myself, which is what I operate in on a day-to-day
Mm-hmm.
basis.
So the young kids do this thing. I'm going to do this in South Africa. They call it locked in, locked in, lock in. We're going to lock that in. In other words, it's like the in thing. We love it. Authenticity is a superpower. I say that. So we are kindred spirits, and I'm grateful to have you here. And yes, maybe I can be on your podcast one time. I don't do a lot anymore, but I would love to grace your podcast. So on that note, what are we talking about today? From invisible weight to
Yes.
intentional growth. This is a weighted, excuse the pun, topic for today. And so for
Yes.
those that want to know just a little bit about Dr. Lisa, she's known as the Growth Motivator. She's also a speaker and author, a growth coach, and a healthcare leader with over 30 years of experience in leadership and education. Through her work, she helps individuals identify, but not just identify, also release the invisible weight that impacts confidence, healing, and personal growth. Drawing from both lived experience and professional insights, she guides people through life transitions and transformation with clarity and purpose. She's also the host of 52 Authors, 52 Weeks podcast and author of the upcoming book, Shed the Weight, darling, metaphorically, in every sense, physically, emotionally. We get to talk through that today. And then the subtitle was Achieve Personal Growth by Shedding What No Longer Serves You. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And so there's a story here because this is also about releasing those emotional burdens that can create space for healing and resilience and purposeful growth. So, where did this start for you? Because our purpose is always, and let me say, the pain is always the catalyst for the purpose, but
Mm.
not always for everyone. So, where did your journey start? What was your hero or shero or heroine journey that you want to share with us today?
Yes. So we only have an hour. So I'll pick one area. And the reason why I say that is a lot of people, when they see me, oh, you're the growth motivator. Oh, you're teaching us to shed the weight. You must don't have your own weight. We all carry these barrels of weight. And the
Mhm.
weight that we carry, it changes, right? So for
Yes.
me, I was successful. Now I got to do this new thing because I'm like, I've seen it, but I didn't know what it meant. So I learned something. So I was successful, dependable, and accustomed to carrying like all of this responsibility. And so
Yes.
if you saw me out and about, you're like, oh, everything must be
Mm,
fine. She's locked
mm,
in, right?
mm,
But internally, I recognized that something needed to change, right? I
mhm.
had become really an expert at operating under pressure, an expert at operating under pressure. But I realized that functioning and being fulfilled, the two F's, functioning and being fulfilled, are not really the same thing. And I
Mhm.
say that because you could have like a role at your job, right? You can have stability, you can have all these achievements. But for me, those things were costing me my peace.
Mm,
And I get emotional when I think about it, because without peace, you don't have alignment. Without
mm.
peace and alignment, you're not free to explore the deeper parts of you.
Sure, sure. I mean, that resonates. I'm always raw, real, and unfiltered. I have my weight that I carry, well, a little bit of physical around the tummy and, and the other areas too,
That
but that's a
menopause
different.
weight. Oh my gosh, it's so heavy.
So listen, we're keeping it real here, but just so everybody knows, none of us are sitting here all polished, as Dr. Lisa says. And so we come here to share these stories so that they are invitations to you, those that are listening in. Thank you for joining us, Minora and Berry Senpai on Instagram. I'm going to check YouTube afterwards, but I want to get back to this lovely conversation here. So let us understand then, what was the defining experience that made you say, my peace and fulfillment means more than status, prestige, or perceived status and prestige that I acquired over the success that everybody models in the view that should be success.
So for me, I was unknowingly on this 7-year journey. I've discovered that the number 7 has so many significant um, accomplishments, disappointments, just sevens.
Mm,
Every time
mm,
there's a 7, something happens. But I came to that point where I realized I couldn't continue to sacrifice who I needed to become
mm,
while staying under this identity that I allowed myself to remain in. And what I mean by that is I was juggling a full-time job at a university online. So, it was very flexible. And then
mhm,
simultaneously, I was working as a healthcare consultant. And so many people said, wow, that is so great because, like, you could bring the real world into the classroom, all the things, right? And what was tugging at me for a very long time was that I really needed to be a full time entrepreneur, not full time at this university. And then I had my business and I had a commercial office space, right? So I was all in. And those
mhm,
two identities in particular, the university professor, the full time owner of a healthcare consulting company, those were identities that people knew me by, right? But I realized that those two things no longer served me. It was it was a moment that actually happened where I said, "You got to let it all go. You have to let go of the comfort." Because, if I'm working a full time job at a university and I have my business, yeah, I had a certain level of things, right?
yeah.
And going from a very structured financial status to a financial status that's very messy. And when I say messy, I'm saying uncomfortable and messy.
Mm,
To
mm,
go to there from where I was, where my bills were on the automatic debit, to now where it's like, okay, it's Friday. Let me see who I can pay today. That was
yes, yes.
very, very, very uncomfortable. But the level of peace is there's no financial number you can put to it because it's a different place. I'm 53 years old and I do not look 53 years old.
How? No, darling, you don't look. I had a guest that was on, so we say you are version 5.3, the
Yeah,
upgraded version of 5.2. But darling, you don't look a day older than version 4.5, maybe even younger. What's the
3.5.
secret?
But yes, I've been told I look like I'm 35. But you know what happened? Once I resigned from that job, I call it the resignation that set me free.
Mhm.
Once I gave up that first business, I was able to really understand Lisa and what Lisa was supposed to be offering to the world. And just so
Mhm.
folks know, resigning was not an impulsive decision. I have been known to make impulsive decisions, but it wasn't an impulsive decision. And I wasn't giving up. I was just letting go. Right. And so it's been 3 years since I let go of both of those things. 3 years.
So I mean, I can relate to some of this because I didn't resign. I had no choice. I was laid off. We call it retrenched in South Africa. And I was celebrating that, where most people don't. I was the primary breadwinner at the time, and I was still married. I'm now consciously uncoupled.
Oh my God. I'm learning all kinds of things on this podcast. I love it.
Yeah,
That's the
we took
other
all kind
reason.
of things. But I can so relate because that steady certainty of a paycheck, an income at the end of the month, the medical, not insurance, we call it medical aid. I don't know what you call it on your side of the world, but it's like having medical cover, having pension or provident or retirement annuities. That was the comforts, the creature comforts, right? The life policy, having you name it, everything. But some way, somehow, we were attached to this as part of a system, right? You
Hmm.
spoke about identity earlier on. So this identity came from an assumed adaptation somewhat. Can you share with us where this came from? Because it had to come from your early former years.
So it's funny you asked that question because leaving did not answer every question that I had, right?
Mm, mm,
I had to redefine what success truly looks like. I had to redefine what it means to trust Lisa and
mhm,
create this new identity that went beyond my previous identities. And so what I did, I went back to when I was 5 years old.
yeah.
And I know, like, I'm 53, so I was 5. And when I was 5 years old, very quickly, my father was supposed to pick me up from school because my mother
Mhm,
worked days, he worked evenings. And so I'm in, I'm 5 years old, I'm in kindergarten, and he didn't come. So the 5-year-old Lisa said, well, I'll just walk the same way that daddy drives the car. I felt like we didn't live that far away from the school. And so I made it to the door and my father was like, Lisa? I was like, hi, daddy. Right. And so that version of Lisa, she trusted herself. Right.
wow,
She
I'm getting goosebumps.
yes, she trusted herself. She achieved success because she made it home safely.
Mm,
Now,
mm.
the 53-year-old version of me, when I think about that area and that walk that I took, I'm like, I would not have let my kids do that walk. But
Mm.
eventually that whole journey of going back to the 5-year-old version of Lisa, really understanding who I am as a person, helped with my overall transformation. Like it literally transformed me into a better person of myself. I've always loved myself, but this version of me, every time I think about her, I get emotional because I always say to myself, wow, she's so powerful. I think the other version of me relied on external validation. This version of me is all about internal, right? So change is external,
Yes.
transformation is internal.
Mm, 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 mm. Hey, I want to use that again. Lock it in, darling. Like we are soul sisters because like that validation thing was also connected to people pleasing for me. I don't know if you can resonate with this, right? So being the hero, rescuer, and savior with everyone, and to be liked by everyone, so we'll do the right thing, the reliable one, the go-to person. But deep down, that inner knowingness and acceptance. And like you said, it was love, but was it unadulterated, like you were in love with the version of you completely, or you still needed to learn to fall in love with that version? So, in the parts where you weren't yet validating yourself, that inner transformation, what were some of those experiences and how did you show up back then?
So, number one, I did a lot of crying.
Mhm.
I did a lot of crying away from the public eye, right? When I would show up, and I'll just use one simple example. My other identity was very skilled, and I still am. Let me just say that in
Mhm.
the area of medical coding, right? And so, medical coding is something we use here in the US to assign numbers to patients' diagnoses and visits in healthcare settings. And so, I would show up always smiling. People say, oh my gosh, you're always smiling, right? So, what they saw then and what they see today is the same externally. But what I see today in the mirror is this lighter version of me, right? This lighter version
Mhm.
of me who was able to become more intentional about my own well-being. And when I say that, you know how people say, "Oh, you have to do self-care," right? Self-care like and they say, "Oh, you got to get your nails done and all the things." And for me, if I can be honest, my biggest flex is protecting my mental health. That's my biggest form of self care. And what that means is I don't have to go everywhere. I don't have to talk to everybody, but I do have to make sure that Lisa mentally is okay because I spent so much time performing to me for everybody else. And when I say performing, as a professional speaker, when you get on the stage, you are. It's like lights, camera, action, right? But now when I get on the stage, I have this level of grit in my voice that
Mm.
I have to make sure I control my emotions because it's so overwhelming for me. Like, I'm like, wow, Lisa, the audience is experiencing you in a way that you never imagined that they would be able to do so. And I realize it's because of me being intentional on, I say on this side of, what's my new word? 5.3. My new, my, on the other side, right? On the other side of the 5.0, I'm very intentional. And it's funny that your show is about grit, grace, and gratitude because what I realize is that grit is not about carrying all of those identities and things forever.
Mm.
Sometimes grit is about being courageous enough to release the things that are no longer serving you.
That's beautiful, Lisa. I think when I have a co-host, but she's on a little bit of an indefinite sabbatical, I think. But she used to say toxic resilience and toxic positivity. We don't actually need to be having it all together all of the time. Sometimes it's just saying, well, no more. I'm letting these go, and I deserve more. Because we can believe that we are worthy. I have another lady that's she opened my eyes to something. She said, I think you know you're worthy, but do you really believe that you are deserving of? That hit me to the core because, as you say, we're doing the work. So you're doing the work and you're like, okay, now I deserve it, darling. But when it gets down to the crux of it, that inner version of yourself is really what will tell the true tale. And it's interestingly enough, I don't know, Lisa, if you have found this. You have mentioned something quite like profound. I don't need to see anyone. I don't need to speak to anyone. I don't need to show up all the time. I don't need to be seen, heard, understood, and validated. But when I do show up and I do speak, what's illuminating from me is authenticity. So that's what I'm hearing you say is that even if you said very little words on that stage, the depth of the truth, the rawness, the unfiltered parts that come through, I think that's what the audience is almost gripping into when they hear you speak. And that's what I'm getting a sense of. And the fact that you're coming on here and you'll say, well, I mean, we were chatting earlier on about travel, and we say, well, we'd love to travel, but we can't really travel every month, but we've been to travel. It's that you are now vibrating on such a different frequency that it doesn't actually matter. None of the previous, I don't even, you don't even hold on to the title Dr. Lisa. You refer to yourself as Lisa. That speaks volumes as well, right? So that was just an acknowledgement on my part to say that I feel your authenticity, your realness. And even though we so far apart in different parts of the world, I'm able to connect meaningfully with you. And that's what I suppose is going to be your impact in the world, already is the impact. So if I had to come back and ask you this question, sometimes we need accountability partners, we need mentors or guides or wise sages because we can be blind to our own unconscious behaviors or lack of respecting our mental health and well-being. Who was your accountability partners along this journey? Who was
Mm.
trying to be that mirror to you? And did you listen initially? Were you open initially to receive it? Or did you later value the gift that they were trying to extend to you?
It's funny that you asked that question because I realized I thought about it, I wrote about it, but now I realize how powerful that was. So, in my first book, which is titled Grow With Me, I wrote this chapter, I believe it was chapter 7, that was titled You Work Too Much. And all of my friends and family, they were like, Lisa, you work too much. You're just day and night and day and night. And on this other side of the you work too much version of myself, I realized that I was chasing after something that I thought I should have, that I still believe that I should have it, but the way that I was going about it wasn't sustainable.
Hmm.
So when you ask me who is my accountability team, I want to make sure I had to grab my book to make sure um, that I give these folks their kudos. But
Yeah.
in my book, I call them the growth community. And
Mm.
these are, and let me tell you, when you quiet the noise, the external noise, the internal noise, it gives you space to hear. When you
Mm.
quiet the external noise, the internal noise, it creates that space to hear. And so I realize the dreams that I have about where I will be at some point, not everyone who was previously a part of my life needs to be on that climb with me. And so I acknowledged these folks in my book as my growth community, because I realized those were the real ones, right? Those were the ones who through thick and thin, they had my back. They would constantly, you know, rehearse in my mind, I work too much, I work too much. And so now here's the funny thing. When they see me today, I think they still haven't realized how much I've given up, because they think Lisa still works day and night. Lisa does not. Lisa does not. Lisa goes to water aerobics, 10 a.m. class, right? Lisa likes to sit on the couch with a good book. Lisa likes to sit down and write and pray and cry. Lisa is just experiencing loving on herself in a way that I didn't even know was possible. I didn't. And what really, so you talk about accountability, right? So it's my growth community. But the other thing that happened was when I said I had shedded that version of Lisa, I found myself slipping back into her. And then I fell and fractured my ankle. And I was stuck in my bedroom for 3 months. Had surgery and was stuck in my bedroom for 3 months. And in that space where I had no choice but to sit still, that's when I started getting all of these downloads about what I had slipped back into and what I need to do to make sure that I don't go back to that place.
So it's interesting, for me, it's like when in the hero's journey, they call this the call to adventure, right? And it doesn't mean you're going to go on this major big adventure. The adventure could be the adventure to stillness and just being quiet and pausing, right? But we don't heed the call. And so this is where the universe conspires and says, well, okay, you ain't listening, darling. These these hardwired parts, we need to unfire and unwire these neural pathways, because that's essentially what I'm hearing you say. There was an unwiring and unfiring of these conditioned ways of showing up. And so you didn't listen necessarily, and it took that forced pause
That
for
fall
you to
from
be able to.
grace.
Oh my gosh. And you know what I love about you? You're humble and you don't take yourself seriously, and you take the whip out if you need to whip and say, hey, listen, you needed to get over yourself here. And it is that, right? Because these behaviors are just linked to our stories, where we say we had to be these versions, these identities. I mean, let's talk about the relationship with money. What are our relationship? What's the weight that we carry with our relationship when it comes to money?
It's so funny you asked that question, because my book that's coming out next month, I talk about the 7 types of weight. And during this 4-year period of when I was writing, I identified more than 7, but 7 was my sweet spot. But the financial weight, I didn't even talk about that in this book, because I have not been healed from financial weight. And what do I mean by that? So with my first business, I borrowed money from my retirement to fund my first business, right? Because I believed in her, right? She was my identity. Like, I was like, I am president and CEO of Physician Practice Resources Incorporated. She was draining me financially. So here I am, 53 years old. And in the US, usually, you might retire around age 67. And
Mm.
one of the things that has been weighing heavy on me is at 67, where will I be financially, right? I've lived an amazing life, have done all the things, bought all the things, right? But now I'm in this position where I have much less coming in. And let me just give one
Mm.
disclaimer. I am married. And so that has helped. My husband was my biggest cheerleader for quitting that job.
Mm.
He's kept saying, like, he said, you talked about that job ad nauseum. I'm so tired of you talking about that job. I just want you to quit. But I was afraid. And so I literally was afraid. But when we talk about the financial aspect of where I am today and the weight, it's heavy because I went to school for a very long time. So I have a lot of, I don't know if you have this in South Africa, but I have a lot of student loan debt. I have
Definitely.
okay, I have a mortgage on my house, right? I've been in my
Mm.
house for over 20 years. I have, and I had the house before I got married, right? So my husband always says, "This is your house." um, but then I had credit card debt because with my first business, buying this and buying that. And so when I sit and look at this space that I'm in, the reason I didn't quit the job was because I was like, you can't quit until you pay all this stuff off. So now here we are 3 years later. That stuff still isn't paid off,
Mm.
but I'm lighter and I'm just literally taking it one day at a time. I am a type A person, very like, but I had to let
Same.
parts of my personality go and just literally go with the flow, right? That was the
Mm.
only way 3 years later. But when I
Yeah.
think about how I felt sitting in this office space back then and how I feel today, I am free. Even though I have the weight of that financial um, debt, I am free.
Oh God. It's like you are meant to come on here today, darling. I mean, seriously, I, Jesus, like I'm also sitting with those dates of owning a business, being a single mom, but I'm looking at what we wrote in the post. Oh, by the way, I did send you a LinkedIn request, so you must just accept it. If you want to afterwards, go put in some comments or whatever, or leave people where they can find you, just your handles. But when I look at what we said here, moving beyond what weighs you down and stepping into a life of greater peace, purpose, and possibility. And for the first 30 minutes of our conversation, you mentioned peace, you spoke about purpose, you keep on referring to the possibility of where things are going to go. Now, imagine if your relationship with money had to be one of scarcity and lack, you would be feeling weighed down of those commitments. But what I'm hearing you say, and this is why we are kindred spirits, people would say to me, but you're a single mom, I'm going to find a job. I had a dry season 3 months in my business. And everyone's like, just go find another job. And I'm like, really? I don't believe that that's the way to go because I'm aligned in my purpose. I know what the
Alignment.
possibilities are. And I would much rather be at peace as you going for a walk, watching something with my son, my 11-year-old, or doing something that is meaningful and having that flexibility. Because it's not what is actually important to us. Money is an enabler, it's energy, but it is a weight nonetheless for many people. So you mentioned 7 weights. Let's talk about some of the other weights then. What are some of those other weights that you have given a language to? And I
Yes.
like that you've given a language to it.
You know what? I was able to give a language to it because I sat with myself, but
Mm.
also unknowingly, I was helping others with their weight.
Mm.
Right? Because, and a lot of this started during the pandemic, right? Where
Yes.
healthcare leaders would contact me. burned out, trying to decide if they're going to walk away from the job. Like, who walks away from a job during a pandemic? Well, do I lose my mind or do I walk away from the job? Very easy decision to make, right? But
Yes.
the 7 weights, and I'll just I'll show them on the front of the cover, because this is not what the cover looked like initially. But the more I sat with the content in the book, I knew that they had to be front and center. So these are the 7 types of weight, and I'll say what they
Look at
are.
me.
But
I'm trying to enlarge my screen.
this is the only copy out there in the
Wait, I'm
world
making
right
it
now.
larger here.
This is the
Shed the
only.
weight. So wait. I'm going to look at my emotional, mental. What is the other one? Historical,
Yes,
comparative, procrastination. Wait. Now I'm not seeing the
commitment,
last 2. The light is reflecting. What are the last 2?
commitment, and physical.
You know, when I look at that, I'm thinking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and this is like a hierarchy of weights.
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Every time I go on a podcast, every time I have a conversation with someone, I learn something new about what I wrote. But you asked me a question like about some of the other ones, and one that I really want to highlight is historical weight. And I want to highlight that because very early in my adult life, I became a mother. So in 1992, I became a mother of a special needs child who is now 34. And I lost my voice initially because I didn't know what I was doing. And I wasn't accepting that this is what was happening. And so advocating for her helped me find my voice. But when I think about from a historical perspective, when I was younger, here in the US, in your progress report for school, on the back, they used to have like these comments. And on the back of mine, somebody wrote, "Lisa talks too much in class." Now, here's the funny thing. I believe we have allowed people and generational things to prevent us from becoming the best version of ourselves. So, younger, Lisa, you talk too much, right? Having this child with special needs, lost my voice. Advocating for my daughter, found my voice. Then, using my voice to speak for others, but wasn't getting paid, to today, where if I'm going to speak at some conference or something, that's my full-time job. So I have to be paid, right? But I didn't realize how it had impacted me until I went back. Going back, and let me just say this, I am not a therapist. I am not a therapist. I am a growth coach. My PhD is in health care administration. So I am not a coach, right? I mean, I'm not a therapist, but I am a coach. But when I took the time to go back to earlier parts of my life, it helped me understand why I do what I do, why I say what I say, right? Some of the things that I kind of held on to for far too long, it was historical stuff. And so now I'm on this mission as I help others, but also as I interact with like my adult children, is trying to figure out ways to help them shed things that may have happened in their childhood so that when I'm no longer here and they have kids and our family continues for decades, that we break those generational trauma and barriers so that they don't continue.
I'm going to lock that one in, right? And to be the cycle breaker is the most difficult role to play, because you are seen as rubbing people up the wrong way. It's, people are comfortable even in the damn chaos, right? They
Mm-hmm.
like to repeat the same
Ooh.
behavioral issues generation to generation. So I'm the type of mom that I will say a swear word and I'll raise my voice to my kids and I'll react instead of respond. And then I'm like, shucks, now I've got to go back and say, hey, listen, I'm so sorry. It wasn't acceptable. This is not the right way. So I hear you in terms of it requires us to step into a different level of leadership,
Mm.
and it requires self leadership first. And so when you go back in history, this historical weight is, where am I likely to sabotage my relationship? Because that historical beliefs or programming and systems that we were underpinned by is really why we show up and behave and have a perception of the world. But
Wait a minute, I gotta get it right. Which fingers I'm supposed to be using? I'm locked in. Locked in.
so I'm with you on this. And I other than being a coach to entrepreneurs, I also do skills development for students. And one of the things I say, your trigger is your treasure. Because if you are
Mm.
triggered by any person, that's data, right? It's data collected, darling, because it's giving you insights. But it takes the inner work. That inner tranquility and peace doesn't just arrive. And you are going to continuously be triggered because these are experiences that are sitting in cell memory, right? So you being a healthcare professional, and I know you did the administration, but I'm sure you have done some of the work around, cell memory and how we store these traumas and wounds in ourselves. So, what are some of the ways to release that weight from those trauma?
So first thing, let me just remind, I am not a therapist.
Yes, yes,
And the reason why I say that is because there's this fine line between growth coach and therapy. And
yes,
so for me, what I always recommend that everyone does is really it's simple, but it requires some intention. So
yes,
number one, you have to name the weight. You have to see it. I've identified 7, but listen, in my 20 drafts of the book that are over there, I got about 30 more that I could have written about that I just decided that now wasn't the right time to write those because
yes.
I wasn't even healed from them, right? And so
So,
first you have to see it. You got to name it. Once you see it, you have to honor it because it
mm,
once
mm,
served a place in your life.
absolutely.
3, you have to evaluate it because one of the things I'm big on right now is alignment. So you have to evaluate if this is something that's truly still serving you. And then
Mm,
after that is D, decide
mm,
to drop it. And
mm,
that actually, if you look at the letters, is shed. See, honor, evaluate, and drop.
I'm gonna lock that one in, darling.
And you know what's so weird? What's so weird? When I wrote my first book and my spirit, my higher power kept saying this word weight to me, I thought it was all about physical weight.
Mm,
But I realized that it's so many other weights that we carry. Before I wrote this new book, anything else, my higher power gave me the foresight that I needed to actually trademark Shed the Weight by the Growth Motivator. That was 4
mm,
years ago. I
wow.
didn't even know what that meant.
Yes, yes.
I didn't know. But I
Isn't
was
that
being
just?
obedient.
Guided. You were guided.
I was guided. I was getting these downloads and I didn't know, like, some people might say, oh, that was 4 years ago. You didn't do anything with it. Not
Mm,
everything that you do, if you're guided to do it, not everything, the why doesn't always surface right away. But if you
mm,
keep on the journey, I kept, like in my first book, I just kept saying the word wait, WEIGHT, and wait, WAIT, because I was carrying so much weight, the weight, right? The WE,
yes.
that I
Yes.
waited to quit my job. I waited
Mm,
to disconnect with people who should no longer be in my life. So
mm,
those two weights together were very heavy. And so once I said goodbye, job, and listen, it's so much more we can talk about related to that job, because I started getting treated very unfairly. And that was hurtful because I
mm,
had given 15 years of my life to
mm.
this place. So when we talk about gratitude, gratitude is not like, oh, everything is okay. Now, everything, every
No.
experience, right? Um, I'm not necessarily grateful for every hardship, but
Yes.
I'm grateful for what those hardships revealed to me, what
Oh,
the
yes.
end result was, what was clarified for me. And again, I get so emotional thinking about it because I'm like, some days, I'm just going to be honest, I'm like, why, God? Why me? Why did you
Mm,
choose
mm,
me? And I
mm,
realize He's been choosing me. I
mm.
just wasn't showing up. He chose me to be the parent of a special needs child.
Mm.
He chose me.
It's beautiful. Let's pause for a moment and just receive that. Mm. And how often do we actually pause to see the gift and the opportunity, see the divine protection, the divine intervention, right? We often are in the victim, why is this happening to me consciousness. I think it's Dr. or Reverend Michael Bernard Beckwith that says this is happening. Why me? That's the first level. And then it's okay, this is happening. So it's by me, through me. So, okay, sure, I'm actually co creating this as well. And then the third level is I'm sort of one with it, right? There are four levels. I won't go into all of it, but what you've described is I don't know who has said this. I need to find who has made this statement. Name it to tame it,
Yes.
feel it to heal it, right? And that you almost, the honoring part is to integrate those parts of yourself because they're not separate from you. And I mean, gosh, how often do we try to suppress or shame versions of ourselves that we're not always so happy about? But they did what was necessary for us. And so we don't see those gifts until later, the insights. I know we only have about 12 minutes left, but I want to tap into at least one or two more of the different weights that we're defining for you.
hmm All right, audience. All right, audience. It's this one right here. It is this cell phone and social media and the weight of comparison.
Mm,
Comparison is the thief of joy.
yes.
And the reason why I say that is sometimes I found myself scrolling through Facebook or LinkedIn, and I see another person who is a speaker, and I'm like, wow, they got accepted to do that keynote presentation, or wow, they were on TV, or wow, they were like They got the award. They got the award. They were on TV. They were interviewed. Like,
Mhm.
what am I doing wrong? Why not me? And again, I went back to the beginning. There is some power in going back to the beginning. So I went to don't ask me why. I went to my high school yearbook because in the US, we have, when every year you have this
Yeah.
yearbook. And in the yearbook, they have this most likely to succeed, most athletic, right? The concept of comparison has been embedded in our culture, and it causes us to look at our lives through the lens of somebody else's life when you should really be looking at your own lenses. But then it didn't stop there. When I was in college, when we took an exam, they'd have the scores on the wall. They didn't have your name. They might have like the last four of your social. But that created this constant desire to compete with everybody else. We are all identified on this earth by our fingerprint, our print, right? So if you print me and you print you, we're two different people. Yet we're comparing ourselves to everybody else instead of focusing on what I've done on this earth, right? And I had to reframe what I see other people posting reframe it in my mind, because I also realize people present very curated versions of them on social media. And that may not necessarily be the version of them that is the true version. And I'm going to give you an example. I, through menopause, woke up one morning and this whole side of my hair was gone. Okay. And so now today, I wear what's known as a medical prosthesis. It's a fancy word for a medical wig, right? And it used to be when I would come on podcasts, I'd go upstairs and grab it. Now I'm just like, this podcast is going to be done at 9:30. That's when I normally get in the car to go to water aerobics. I'm not doing all of that. Let me just show up with no mask on, just show up as me, how I woke up. There's no makeup. In fact, I didn't even wash my face this morning. Because when I go to the gym, I have to get in the shower before I get in the pool, right? So I didn't wash my face.
Exactly.
I was just like, I'm gonna be on this podcast from 8:30 to 9:30. I'm gonna get in this car and I'm gonna go to water aerobics because water aerobics is like my happy place. But I said that because we compare ourselves to everybody else. And if you take the time to just focus on you, you will start to feel lighter. Because we're carrying too much. And I think the pandemic heightened how much we carry. People are driving so fast. It's like people have just lost it.
Yeah.
And here's me like driving like granny. Well, I am a grandmother, but driving like granny, like with no worries, right? Just making it to my destination because I'm at peace, I'm in alignment, and I'm walking in my true purpose.
Listen, I mean, you're a lot like me where you will just say publicly, listen, I was sitting in my PJs when I do skills development and I'll put a jacket over because and then I'll have people that I'm coaching and they're like, wait, I can't put the camera on. I'm like, but why? I look terrible. Put it on anyway. Just come as you are.
Come as you are. Listen, and when I'm on different podcasts, this is what I do. I have like 10 blouses lined up and I'll just go get another one. Woo! When you are
we're gonna have to have another one. We're gonna have to have more segments. We're gonna have to unpack the rest of your 7. But is there one more you want to just share with us that was also defining? Procrastination for me was a big one. If I had to look at that one, those 7.
Well, let me say this, because in writing this book, after I had my whole infrastructure in place, I went and did a literature review on these different words that I was using. And one of the things that I was really surprised about is the true meaning of procrastination. I used to think procrastination meant that you were lazy, but actuality, procrastination actually really uncovers something deeper, right?
Yeah.
And so it's
Yeah.
not that you're lazy, it's for some reason something has you paralyzed that's preventing
Imposter.
you, right? It could be, oh, I can't start my podcast because everything has to be in order. No,
Mhm.
get the mess, focus on what message, right? We all carry all of this invisible weight. Some of us, some of it, it once served us, and other it helped us succeed, right? But shedding it, peeling, like think about an orange or a fruit where you have to peel it, right? it
Yes.
it doesn't mean that you're going to peel the whole orange. You're
Mm.
just shedding the outer part so you can get to the inner part, because
Mm-hmm.
that's where the prize is,
Mm.
inside. But you can't just like and with an orange and eat the peel. I guess you could, but I gotta take the orange part off, right? It probably some fiber in that orange part, but for me, I want to take that part off. I don't want to break my teeth to get to that prize, right? And I think a lot of us don't want to peel back the layers to get to the true essence of who you are.
Listen, you my tribe, and I think you're going to have to come back on again. I can certainly connect with everything that you've shared, but I'd love to delve a little bit deeper, and even some of the ones that aren't in the book, where you still needed to do your healing, because obviously, whatever we've gone through, our own lived experience. When I speak about resilience in crowds, or I speak about my life story, so like unfiltered, and people, there's a bit of a shock moment for some, and like for others, it's like, wow, you're not attached to that story. So for you, you were still attached to some of the pain, and that's why not all of them are in the book. So it would be
Mhm.
great to come on again and delve a bit deeper into the rest of the seven. I know from a procrastination perspective, it was perfection. I was seeking perfection because I wanted credibility. I wanted to be accepted. I wanted to, people had to see this girl has it all together. But that's a story for another day. So, in our last few moments together, what is, some golden nuggets you want to leave our audience with?
So first, I want to tell you thank you for having me on. 1 hour just really goes by
Yeah.
very fast. But the nuggets I want to leave, it's four of them. Number one, recognize what you're carrying. You owe it to yourself. Number two, what is it costing you?
Mm.
Because there's a cost.
Yeah.
Number three, release. Then replace.
Mm.
So replace means, what will I choose instead? So when you release it, and you may not replace right away, right? But eventually something will come organically that gives you exactly what you should have, right?
Mm.
We can't
Mhm.
control everything. We just can't. But
No.
every experience that you've had in life, you had it for a reason, good, bad, or indifferent. You need to really see what that is and continue to go on that journey with yourself. And for me, I'm going to be on this journey until I die.
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah, darling. Let's lock that one in there.
Until I die. Because there are some people who have hurt you and
Mm.
you have not let it go. You're waiting
Yeah.
on them
Yeah.
to apologize.
Mm-hmm.
Forgiveness is for
Mm-hmm.
you, not for
Hell yes.
them. I have to say this one thing. There was this lady who was on my job, and one day she said to me, "You'll never leave. We need you." And then another day, months later, she said, "I don't understand. Like, if your business is doing so well, why are you still working?"
Mm.
I have not talked to that person since I left that job. That person was not a person who was supposed to be in my life. She had her own weight that she was carrying, but she was so fixated on me, so fixated on me and what I was doing. And she got her own weight, but she also became weight for me.
Mm. You
So
see,
3
there's
years
so much
later.
more. We have so much more. I came up with this acronym, the wow factor. And what it stood for in my context was there's wisdom of our wounds. There is wonderment in observing our wounds. And so for today, the wow factor for me is there's wisdom of weight or weight,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Understanding it, because I think that's the biggest insight that I took from today is that there are two types of weights: the waiting it out and staying in suffering, and misery loves company. And so you need to take those steps to release the weight.
Oh my gosh, I have to show you this. Remember, I told you 7 was my number?
Yeah.
In my first book, chapter 7 is let's see, that light just is the weight and the weight.
Look at that. No,
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay.
no, no,
We're
no.
out of time. I got to go to water
We,
aerobics.
I know. So just, I'm going to say goodbye, but stay on. I normally do a short debrief with my guests so that I want to let you go. Thank you for those that have been here on Instagram. I have a few people, some even as far as Italy. Amira, nice to see you here. So love that this, and by the way, I don't care if one person shows up to this live stream. If it touches one person, that's what matters to me. When you spoke about social media, yeah, I'm not for vanity metrics. I'm past that. So thank you for being here. Thank you, Dr. Lisa Campbell. Thank you for those that have commented on Shahid on YouTube. We appreciate your presence here. Same time again next week. Dr. Campbell will come on again. I am summoning her back. She's just got to go and book it into the schedule. Please just go onto the same link again. And then we look forward to unpacking a bit more depth. I think there's a lot more, but you are lighter. You are just a breath of fresh air. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to end the live. Stay with me, and then we'll see you next week.